Ooh. Hello. This is Juniper of Soul V Studio, and welcome to my backyard. Um, Yesterday I spoke about the only person that you will always have around you is yourself, and how that makes your relationship with yourself the most important relationship that you have. And one of the things that I struggle with in my relationship with myself, I'm getting better at it, but I still have some work to do, is my emotional life. And my emotional life has the tendency to create situations that are more difficult, situations in which I do not feel proud of myself. Um, but getting, but I love emotions at the same time. I love the feeling of being in love. I love the feeling of really enjoying something. I love being in the moment of, tasting my favorite meal or some really good food, or, you know, um, this is apple season right now, so, a bite of a really fresh apple, or I made potato soup the other day, and I hadn't made it in a long time, because generally I don't make soups in the summer, just kind of a thing, but now that the weather has shifted, and it's cold season, I've been making more soups, and I made potato soup, and it was so good because I hadn't made it in so long. But just taking the time to enjoy just the little things. I love those emotions. They're so great. But the other emotions that make me look like a jerk, that make me feel not proud of myself. Those are the ones that I wish to have more control over. It seems like, for me in my experience, is that I have less control over my emotions if I'm not happy about things in my life, and especially if haven't been eating well, if I haven't been sleeping enough, or if I'm battling a cold or a flu, or if I have just, my head is too full of thoughts. My head being too full of thoughts, that is problematic for me because it makes me feel like I'm suffocating somehow. And I noticed it especially this year when I went on vacation and I went away from my normal scenario and went to new places and did a lot of driving and a lot of close quarter family time. And when I came home from those trips without much personal space, and when I did have a moment to myself, somebody was always like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?" Those sort of weeks. While they're wonderful, I collect a lot of thoughts. And I usually try to bring some paper or something. Well, I always bring paper. And write some of those thoughts down. But when I come back home after those times, or even there's certain days that just doing my normal thing, errands and being around town or hanging out with friends or something, I'll just have a lot of thoughts, because my brain moves really fast. So for me, I've noticed that it's important for me to have time to unpack my thoughts, to sort through them, to sift through them, because otherwise it creates this build up where I feel like stifled somehow. And it does make it so that my emotional responses aren't what I would hope for. I found myself in this situation last week when I was definitely battling a cold, and just a head cold, so all the pressure in your head and how things sound weird and your voice sounds weird and everything is just off and you're just so tired. But it was homecoming week for my daughter, so she needed help with her outfit, help with her hairstyle. You know, she was experimenting with different makeups, and sometimes she'd want to have my help at 10 o'clock at night, and I was just too tired. I was too tired. Last week I wanted to go to bed around 8 o'clock at night, but she's often just getting home then, so I need to cook her dinner then. So last week I definitely felt that some of my emotional responses weren't the best. And I hope at some point that I can have complete control over them. But most likely, because I'm human, I will have an off day here or there. But when I act out of my emotions, I tend to create drama that require a conversation or an apology or something of that nature, which basically just takes time that could be used for something else. So striving to always approach things from a place of equanimity, of being even-keeled, of being in a challenging situation and handling it in a really fair way. At the end of the day, it's good for the people around you, and it's really good for yourself, because then you're not making a mess that you have to clean up later. So if you find yourself in a really challenging situation, why are you in that situation? What is the why did you get into that situation? So with my daughter, I'm in this situation because years and years and years ago, I chose to have a child. Found out that I was pregnant and chose to have a child. And so that's how I created the situation. So if a situation is one of those things that, and I feel responsibility, I feel all these things. So I'm not going to step away from her, obviously. But going back to why am I in this situation? Oh, because I made the commitment to become a mom. That's why I'm in this situation, and I love her. So then it's necessary to find a new balance. And being a parent, it's so, or in any relationship, things are constantly changing. Like, she's growing up. She's exploring different opportunities, different parts of herself. She's getting to know herself. So her perspective and her perceptions are changing, which in turn changes how I interact with her. And this has been happening ever since she was tiny. You know, when she was really, really little and learning how to walk, and we're on a sidewalk that was rough and she didn't have pants on, I really wanted her to hold my hand, but at some point she was just like, Mom, I don't want to hold your hand. I want to do this by myself. And so I had to change how I was interacting with her, because it no longer served her, and she didn't want it. So respectfully, I had to let her scrape her knee a few times, because she was learning about balance, and she was learning about, you know, the sidewalks that are uneven, and you would trip. And I wanted at all costs to avoid that whole getting injured scenario, but what do? You have to shift and change constantly. So in these situations you find yourself in, why are you in that situation? If it's a work situation, It's because that's how I make a living. It's how, well, what do you like about the job? There's your eyes on the prize. Yes, there's going to be challenges in every occurrence. But you can get through if you just take a step back and change your perspective. Because at the end of the day, you can only control yourself. You can give advice to other people. And yes, of course, you can manipulate people, blackmail people, do all these things to force them to do the things that you want them to do. Of course. But I've tried that too. It doesn't make me feel good. I don't like threatening my kids. Oh, if you don't do this, then da 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 da. That never felt good to me. So I choose to just have a real conversation. Oh, well, if you choose not to brush and floss your teeth, your chances of getting cavities are a lot higher, and you don't like getting fillings, so it might be a better choice to brush and floss your teeth every single day. That sort of thing. That's not me having control over them, because I'm not like pinning them to the ground and like flossing and brushing their teeth for them. I could, and I did help them when they were little, but at this point, I feel like I need to teach them how to take care of themselves and how to create those good daily habits for themselves. So I can only control myself. I can control how I speak. I control my actions. I control how I take care of myself. But I can't control anyone else. But people do respond to your actions. And if they're emotional and hurtful, people might back away from you. If you're open and listening, it's going to go much better. And even with the relationship with yourself, if you are open, and yesterday I was talking about being honest with yourself, if you're open and honest with yourself, it will only help you get to a better place. And get to know yourself better, so that you will have less uncomfortable circumstances in your day-to-day. That's my thoughts for today. Hope you all are well. Blessings.